Wait. What is up, and welcome back to another episode of Blood and Beer, the show where we talk blood sport and we drink beer. I'm your host, Matt. As always, we've got some MMA to talk, we've got some beer to drink. Today, we're sipping on Rheingeist, the truth, Cincy made right here in the Double O. So, gotta moderate my chat from there because it's all jacked. But, how the hell are we doing? We're back. Another episode of the Blood and the Beer. I always forget to record this at the beginning for Blood and Beer. This episode is the UFC 316 prelim preview show where because I do it solo, dive in to all the unsung heroes, the preliminary fights of these big cards, tell you where the hidden gems are, what the picks are, if there are any picks to be made, if there's any money available. So we're going to get into all that, go through all the prelims, break down each fight. If you got anything to say in the chat, say it. I'll address it. And then we're also going to be talking about the PFL launching their new app, what that entails. Is that what they needed to turn their promotion around? I'll go on a big rambling rant here at the end of the show, I'm sure. If you're just joining us, make sure you smash that like button. Give me a sub. We're on our way to 250, and that's the goal, 250, and then we'll go from there. But we're getting there. We got 2 new subs last night. We got a few likes. We had a good little stream. I don't anticipate much out of this one just because it's prelim talk. Nobody cares about the prelims, but they should, because that's where the next stars of the UFC perform. Nobody starts off on main cards unless your name's Bo Nickel, and then you get fraud checked. So, without further ado, we're going to take a sip of this Rheingeist and get right to it. All right, and getting right to it, we'll go to the first fight of the evening. We got Markel Marderos, hell of a name, taking on UFC debutant undefeated Mark Choinsky, I believe is how it's pronounced. I didn't have the audio on when I was watching tape on Choinsky. Marderos is a minus 220 favorite. Like I said, Choinsky's coming in short notice, plus 180 dog here. He's undefeated. Undefeated fighters have not had the best luck in the UFC. But a lot of the problem with the undefeated fighters that we're seeing in the UFC is it's these highly touted prospects, and Mark Choinsky is not that. He's coming in off of Anthony Pettis fighting championship. Dude's fun. He's tough. He's violent. He goes out there and swings big. He's relentless. He shoots a lot of takedowns. He's got a good pace that he puts on the people. But he hasn't fought anybody at the top, near the top of the division, near the top tier that the UFC brings. So we'll have to see. Maybe the adrenaline, maybe the UFC debut jitters will boost him towards a win here. But I think Marderos is just going to be able to outstrike him in a fight that's likely going to go the distance. Marderos, He beat Austin Hubbard by split decision. He also has a win by unanimous decision in the UFC, but he's not looked that great since being here. I also think that Choinsky's not a super technical guy, and I think Medeiros is going to be able to implement a jab and maybe keep him at bay with kicks. He's the taller guy. I'm going with Medeiros, but I'm not super confident in that. So the pick that I would go with there would be the going over 2.5 at minus 190. It's not great numbers, but if you're looking for a parlay, I think that's a safe one to say is going over. Neither guy has a ton of knockouts. Choinsky has 1. Medeiros has, I believe, 4 knockouts. Yeah, so not a ton going there. Or he has 6 knockouts, but not a ton going there. So go with the over in that, over 2.5. I like that. I don't see a finish happening there, so that's a good little parlay piece. But that's a fight that if you're going to miss it. What up, DJ? How the hell are we doing, buddy? I'm glad you could finally make a live chat. I'm not up so late for you. But trust me, that 9:30 start is super late for me also. It's a struggle to get through some of those. I got to pump some energy drinks. I'm up all night afterwards. And if you got any questions or any fights you want to talk about, drop them in the chat. We'll get to it. Moving on, though, the next fight we have is Quinlan Salakal, however the hell you say his name, Salakleed. He's taking on Yanel Ashmouz. Salakleed's a huge favorite in this one. I think it's because of his finish in his last fight over Angel Jobli. Is that who it was that he beat? I don't know. I think it's because of his finish last time out. Way overhyped. The dude pushes a crazy pace. Almost 9 takedowns a fight since coming to the UFC. Eight strikes a minute. So, 8 strikes a minute. So the dude's fast. Dude's putting a pace on you. He likes to get you out of there early. Yanel Eshmuz, he's just like a poor man's Bilal Muhammad. Nothing flashy about the guy. He's just going to be there. He's durable. He's in your face. He's strong. His method of victory is just to make it a grimy fight, hold you up against the cage, stifle your offense, and get a little bit off. Neither of these guys have been finished, but that doesn't mean it's not going to happen here. I like Yanel as a live dog, though, in this one. What is he? Plus 400 or so. That just plus 425. That's crazy for this because I don't think Quinlan's all that good. I don't think Yanel's all that good either, but I just think Yanel is a lot more likely to get this done. He's been through it a little more. He's cut his teeth a bit more, if you will. So I like Yanel Eshmuz in this one. I'm not saying that he's getting it done, but live dog, absolutely. But he does have Quinlan, he's got a 3-inch height advantage, 6-inch reach advantage. So people with a reach disadvantage of over 4 inches, they lose 60% of the time. So are we going to see more of that? Is that what's going to be happening? Because I've made a lot of money off that trend. And, big favorite and the reach, I might not go with Yanel, but he could definitely be a live dog because Quinlan's only 25. Has he been tested to where someone's just stifling your offense, pissing you off, and making it a fight where your gas tank's drained and you really got to dig deep? I don't think he has. So I like Yanel Eshmuz here. And when we do these, when we have pay-per-views like this, sometimes you got to get the shovel out and you got to dig through some of the slop. You got to dig through the shit to come out. How's it work in Shawshank Redemption? Climb through 40 miles of shit to come out a clean man on the other side. And that's what we do with Jang Sang Yu taking on Jeka Sergi. Minus 650. Huge odds on this one as well. Plus 425 for Sergi. Jeka, he's the first Indonesian fighter in the UFC. He's 1-2 in the promotion. He's got a loss to Angel Jobley. Does not age well. The guy's not good. Just not UFC caliber. And I don't think that Jeka is either. Now, Ju Sang Yu, he's undefeated coming into the UFC, but he's out of South Korea. I don't know much about the ZFA where he was fighting and getting all these finishes and undefeated, but I do have a hard time getting behind a prospect from the Asian circuit because so many times we've seen them come in and get fraud checked immediately where there's a lot of hype. This guy's undefeated. He's been killing people over here. And it turns out the promoters were just like, we got to have a star. Let's put this guy in the UFC. Not the UFC promoters. Absolutely right, DJ. Crawl through the chicken shit to get the chicken salad. But not the UFC promoters, but the promoters over in these Asian circuits. They want to push their guys so far, so they give people these favorable matchups. They get these crazy records with a shit resume, kind of like the Nursultan Ruzaboyevs of the world. Kind of like that, where you're not fighting the best of the best, but you have this crazy record. UFC's like, we got to sign you. You're from here. You got this record. You must be good. They show up. They're not that great. Now, Ruzaboyev is a bit of a unicorn in the case of the fraudulent records department because he's shown up and he's actually put on great fights. He's beaten some top guys or some top 25 guys, put on a great fight with Joaquin Buckley. So I could easily see... Yeah, I don't even know. Oh, I could easily see an upset here, but I don't think either of the guys are that good. If you got to piss, take a shit, if you got to run down to the gas station to grab some beer, got to run around the corner to pick up your dime bag, do it while this fight's going on. This is the fight to miss. That's without a doubt. And that brings us to another huge favorite on the card, Wang Kong. She's going to be taking on, goodness gracious, Ariana Da Silva. Wang Kong, another huge favorite. She's a huge favorite every time out. Coming off a win over Diani. She's coming off a win off of a Fighting Nerd. Not a super impressive fight, but a fight nonetheless. And She goes out there, great kickboxer. She has a kickboxing win against Valentina Shevchenko, and she's huge for 125. Her Achilles heel is once she goes to the ground, she has absolutely no clue what to do, and she might as well be finished at that point. Ariana Da Silva, she's not a submission artist, not a knockout artist. She can take you down. She's going to have the wrestling advantage because everybody has the wrestling advantage against Wang Kong. But Da Silva's also been stopped by TKO 4 times. Wang Kong's got some serious power. She isn't the knockout artist that the UFC likes to bill her as, but Ariana Da Silva could get caught and just kind of shell up. I think this could be a highlight reel finish for Wang Kong because in women's MMA, you can see it with all the promos they're putting out about Kayla Harrison and Juliana Pena. It doesn't take much to make a highlight. Juliana Pena has 0 highlights other than her submission of Amanda Nunes, and they still made a pretty awesome hype video with her fight footage. So with that, they're going to be able to do that with Wang Kong. She's somebody that if she can just string together a few wins in a row, they're going to strap the rocket ship to her before she gets too old. Try to get her in there, maybe against Valentina, just for the novelty of it. It gives a story to the women's flyweight division, which we don't have a lot of stories when these fights are being made. Manon Fiorot, the only story there was the worthy title challenger that's been waiting and wanted to get her dues for some time now. Not a super entertaining story. So that would give a story if they can make it happen, but Wang Kong's got to hold up her end of the deal, get some wins. And I don't think she's that good. I think if she fights a really good grappler, she's effed. If she ever runs into a Erin Blanchfield, she's effed. She's done for. Sayonara. But a great matchup for her would be Natalia Silva, somebody that's going to want to kickbox her and thinks that, hey, I probably have the kickboxing advantage. I'm great at kicking and moving. Wang Kong, she's seen that before. She could sniff that out and kind of find a way to stifle that and then implement her offense. So I like that matchup if they can get Wang Kong up there, but it's such a far climb to get her up there at this point. And she's only fighting about every 6 months. Not terrible activity, but if you want to get to the title at 33, just joining the UFC last year, you might need to fight a little bit more frequently than what we are seeing right now. All right, we shoveled through the shit. We got 3 good ones here, or at least 3 fights that I think are going to be good and entertaining. First, we got the polar bear, Sergey Spivak. He's taking on Waldo Cortez Acosta, heavyweight banger. Not really a banger. Waldo Cortez Acosta, he's a great striker. He's coming off of a win over Ryan Spann where he nuked him, but Ryan Spann's a natural light heavyweight, so he was coming up to heavyweight. Cortez Acosta, huge heavyweight, just doesn't have the power. He does a lot of volume striking. He'll point you to a victory. Whereas Sergey Spivak, this dude's got one method to victory, and he gets it done most of the time against top-level guys. He's going to tackle you, and he's either going for the rear naked choke or going for vicious ground and pound. Either way, he's going to take you down. And at minus 150, that's crazy to me. I just don't think Cortez Acosta is going to be able to hold him off from taking him down for 15 minutes. And if he goes down, heavyweights don't get back up. It just doesn't happen against a good wrestler. So Sergey Spivak, that's my lock of the week. I mean, if you're putting money on it, drop it on Sergey. I should have put more money on my last night's show for this, but put the money on Sergey Spivak because he's getting the win without a doubt. He's not getting finished by Waldy Cortez Acosta. And good shout, DJ. Thank you for keeping this chat alive. This is absolutely shocking they didn't make it a UFC Apex main event. I think it's probably only because Sergey Spivak's coming off of a loss and they made him a main event against Tybura, one of the worst cards in recent history, although last month they put quite a few, or the last 2 months, they put quite a few cards up that could contest with that for the worst cards in UFC history. So, yeah, he lost to Almeida in his last one. So, he lost to Almeida, beat Tybura, lost to Gon, beat Derek Lewis, beat Augusto Sakai. Seems like ages ago that Augusto Sakai was in the UFC. He's a guy that it just always blew my mind he was still around and still winning. He was just durable and could outlast until your gas tank went out, and then he'd kind of just pour it on with volume and sometimes get the finish. Had a real rough stretch to end his UFC career, but he was actually a pretty fun donkey heavyweight fighter, Augusto Sakai was. But we keep the ball rolling. We got 2 fights left to go before we get to our PFL talk. I'll probably do, like I said, big rambling rant. How could you forget about Sakai? How could you forget about Augusto Sakai? Top 10 UFC heavyweight fighter perennially. I mean, he stuck around the top 10 way longer than the man needed to. It was shocking that he was able to hold his ranking as long as he did with the losses that he would take, get a win, and then just hang on. He was a cliff. He was hanging on the cliff for dear life, and then he got cut, which made sense. Kind of like what will happen to Tybura if he loses his next fight. It's like, how's this guy still up there? But yeah, loses one more, Tybura is probably out of there too. Same. I always thought of him and Augusto Sakai in like the exact same situation. They fight similarly, real boring, just grab you kind of style. Once you're tired, I'll turn it on a little bit. But yeah, Tybura is gonna be Augusto Sakai 3 years after Augusto Sakai. Moving on though, a fight with crazy metrics on it. Asmat Mirzakhanov taking on Brenson Ribeiro. Ribeiro's got a 10.5-inch reach in this one. That's huge. I already mentioned if you have over a 4-inch reach, that's giving you a 60% chance to win the fight. Scott Steiner math. But he's in for a tough test here. Mirzakhanov swings bombs. He's going to have the wrestling advantage. He's going to be able to take Ribeiro down, but more importantly, he's going to be, when he's faking the takedowns, he's going to be throwing overhands and just cracking Ribeiro overhands repeatedly. Ribeiro keeps his hands super low when he's fighting, and I don't know if Ribeiro is actually UFC caliber. He's 1-2 in the promotion. His one win came off of a split decision. Did he actually win that fight? I don't know. I don't know if I give that to him, because it was, I can't even remember who the guy was now, but goodness. Just not a good fight. I don't think Brenson Ribeiro is a good fighter, and I do think Asmat Mirzakhanov is a very good fighter. I think Mirzakhanov is going to I think he's going to nuke this dude in the first round, but because I think that, this fight's probably going the distance, because when I think it's guaranteed nuke by one guy, does not happen. Or when it's a fight like this where either guy could go out, it just does not happen. The upside to picking Ribeiro is one of the undefeated fighters are bound to lose on this card, and they're all huge favorites aside from the curtain jerker with Milchoysky or Choinsky, however the F it's said. But all wide odds, one way or the other. I think Ribeiro is going to be, he could get it done just because of the record. And he's way bigger than Mirzakhanov, but Mirzakhanov, you just look at the body of work and the skills that he has compared to Ribeiro, and it shouldn't even be a question. The only thing that holds you up is that reach advantage and the undefeated record for Mirzakhanov and the cursedness that we have had this year. And that brings us to our main event of the prelims. Is it a main event? Our featured prelim fight. Joshua Van taking on Bruno Silva. Josh Van, again, on the prelims, we have wide odds. Minus 700, plus 450 coming back for Bruno Silva. And Bruno Silva is going to be the best fighter on paper that Josh Van has fought year to date. Silva's going to have a better grappling game than most of the guys he's fought. He's going to have, let's see here. He's got the experience on Van, but Silva's only fought 3 times in Joshua Van's career. Joshua Van has fought 15 times in the time that Bruno Silva has fought 3 times. Crazy numbers. Josh Van has the most strikes landed per minute in UFC history at 8.1. Averages a takedown a fight. Bruno Silva 2, but Bruno Silva's not going to be taking Josh Van down because Josh Van, he can sprawl. He's just got elite takedown defense. They're the same as far as the size goes. 5'4", 5'5", 65-inch reach for both men. Orthodox stance. So it's going to be on the feet here. And when it's on the feet, Joshua Van's boxing is going to prevail. Bruno Silva, aside from Manel Kopp, you look at his record, and he really hasn't fought anybody as good as Josh Van either. Josh Van, even though he's only 23, let's see, Silva beat Cody Durden, but did he beat Cody Durden? I thought Cody Durden beat Bruno Silva. Yeah, Cody Durden definitely did beat Bruno Silva. I watched that fight. Or no, Bruno's... I don't remember. Yeah, Bruno Silva might have won it, but whatever. UFC's not paying attention to what they're doing on ESPN anymore, and that's okay. We don't care about that, and neither do they. This fight, though, Joshua Van, odds are where they're at for a reason. When you really get down to the brass tacks of it all, there's no path to victory for Bruno Silva aside from nuking him, and he's really not a one-punch knockout artist. I think we're gonna see Joshua Van. It's gonna be one of those A Star Is Born kind of nights. They've been trying to push the guy for a while. He's gonna put on a performance where he goes out there and they're gonna be like, wow, that's kind of Max Holloway reminiscent, where he just styled on the dude, landed punch after punch, over 100 significant strikes in this, landed in this 3-round fight. I'm picking for Josh Van. I don't think he gets a finish because he's not a big finisher, but I think it's going to be a good fight. Good fight for Van. Not a good fight to watch. I think it's going to be a beatdown, but I don't think he's getting the finish here. Just a fun fight. And the prelims, they're not the most fun. They're not the most fun pay-per-view prelims that we've ever had. We've had way better ones. But they didn't slide any of these prospects up to the pay-per-view and slide a fight like Kevin Holland versus Luque down, or slide Pfeiffer versus Gaslam down, or Mix versus Batista. Could you imagine if that wasn't on the main event? The main event of this card, absolutely stacked. Cannot wait for it. This card, I'm so excited for it. While people are upset about the Sean O'Malley getting a rematch with Merab after not taking any fights since the loss, I get it. Kayla Harrison versus Juliana Pena, not the most entertaining to a lot of people. I love the fight. It just tells us a lot about where women's MMA is, where Kayla Harrison is. Is she really this force that everybody's been saying she is all these years? It's been 5 or 6 years we've been talking about her, and she's been a force so far. The only person to take her down a peg is Larissa Pacheco, and Larissa Pacheco very well could be drinking orange juice with a little bit extra in it every single morning. So that's what I think about. That's what I think about these fights so far. That's what I think about the prelims on here. Now I want to talk about the PFL. Drop their new app. You're absolutely right, DJ. Definitely a card worth looking forward to. It really gives me old school UFC vibes. Like not the best 2016 card, but one of those 2016 pay-per-views where you're just like, hey, Connor's not on it, Robbie Lawler's not on it, none of these guys are on it, but it's still going to be good. It's just got fights all over the place. 2 championship fights. They're giving us 2 championship fights because they don't have anything super amazing to give us. And under the championship fights, they're giving us vets versus prospects. They're giving us vets versus vets. They're giving us UFC newcomer, Patchy Mix, Bellator champ, taking on the most hated man in the UFC, Mario Batista. Don't even get me started on the boy. But yes, PFL. They launched an app. And this is what I've been begging them to do. If you've gone through my channel, if you've watched my channel, I have several videos where I just air out grievances in regards to the PFL. What I think they could do better. What I think they need to do to engage fans. And they finally started listening to me. I don't know if it's actually me they're listening to. I have a very low reach on this internet thing that we do. But I've been calling for them to upload their full fight library, and not the way it is on ESPN where you can find the whole event and watch it and you got to fast forward through and hope ESPN doesn't crash while it's loading to where you fast forwarded through. No, I want to have individual fights the way UFC used to have it on ESPN. Blood and Beer app. Yeah, I mean, I could do it. It just costs a little bit of money, you know what I'm saying? No, yeah, that would be awesome. You know, maybe a subscription box for Blood and Beer. We'll send you a DVD package of all our old tapes and a 6-pack of Michelob Ultra. I don't know, maybe a little subscription. Send you a 6-pack of the beer of the month, something like that. Yeah, but PFL, they're doing the damn thing. They're doing the right thing. We need to be able to go back and find Paul Hughes versus Usman Nurmagomedov without having to sift through 5 fights of shit. We need to be able to go back and watch the PFL Championship so we can see how great Dakota Decheva is. So we can see how Impa Kasanganai's run in the PFL after getting cut from the UFC was just something unbelievable to watch, but nobody got to watch it except for us diehards. I watched it and I was inspired by what Impa Kasanganai was able to do in the PFL, but nobody was able to see it. And after the fact, it's no longer available unless you want to do a deep dive. And the average person is not going to be doing that. They want to see it right there. So if they're looking for PFL, at least PFL has the library now. Now, does this fix all the problems? It does put all the PFL international programming on the PFL app for free. That's beautiful. Available to the fans. They also lowered their gate prices, so it's $25. They're going to be going on the road. They don't want to be doing these apexy shows they were doing at the WCW Arena in Universal Orlando. So, making great moves. One last great move for the PFL to make. This has been perfect, what they've done. Yes, they've dropped the ball with their talent, with how they've handled the Bellator merger. Complete waste of time. But Shane Burgos versus that's a PFL classic. Exactly, Nels. But nobody can go back and watch it. I watched that live. Great fight. Just banger. Dudes were bloody. It was fun. Dudes were banging. Nobody could go back and watch it. So, what's the last thing PFL needs to do? They did a soft move towards it. I hope that's what this plan was, a soft move towards it, eliminating the season. I like the season idea, but I get why you can't do it. It's convoluted, especially if you want to have major stars like the Francis Ngannous and keep Dakota Dechevas around, the Johnny Eblins, these great fighters. You want to keep them around. What they need to do after this season, nix the tournament completely. Go to how Bellator did after their first couple tournaments and just, it's a fight promotion. We're going to put the best fights together. Once somebody emerges as a contender, you're going to fight for the singular belt in this division, not for the tournament championship, not for the super fight, not for the supercard championship, not for the Bellator championship that we have in some divisions, but not others. What you're going to do is you're just going to fight. We're going to eventually have rankings because people will have established themselves. People will be able to follow this promotion because it won't be so convoluted. Don Davis will delete his ex. Jonathan Coachman will no longer be doing post-fight interviews and everything else. He will just be taking the Dana White role without being in charge of the whole company. He just does the announcements, does the damn thing, does the pre-fight pressers, the post-fight pressers, the whole thing. Shut the fuck up, Don Davis. We just need a fight promotion. We don't need any gimmicks. You've tried the gimmicks. We're gimmicked out. Give us a fight promotion that people can just go to and be like, yeah, I went to the PFL not for the tournament to fight a bunch of nobodies and get beat by some Russian that's going to nut hug me for 15 minutes. No, I went to the PFL because I wanted to have fun fights. I wanted to make some money, and it's a real competitor to the UFC now. It's still not that with their tournament base, because do you really want to go there and have to win the tournament to get your money? They don't have the money to be signing big guys anymore. So, PFL, nix the tournament completely after this year. Full-on MMA promotion. You got my support. I'll be wearing the PFL shirt every time you got a fight on. And maybe you do it like 7 to 8 months out of the year. Do a little Cage Warriors thing where you take a couple months off. Still have that downtime where you can revamp, get everybody going. But you have a bit of a season, but it's not something where we're keeping points or we're doing a tournament where we got to worry about switching out people because they got injured, like Kevin Lee coming in against Gadzi Rabanov. That's a weird fight, and that's a bad fight for Kevin Lee. Great fight for Gadzi. I don't know. I'm just rambling and ranting, but I am very proud of the PFL. They're doing the right thing here. They're doing the damn thing and making fans happy. They're no longer trying to appeal to their board holders or to their stockholders, to potential investors. They're just making it available to the fans. And if the fans are happy, then the investors will flood in because they'll say, hey, there's some buzz around this program now. People are watching PFL. And if you don't watch PFL, check out their library. They have some absolutely amazing fights on there. Clay Collard versus Shane Burgos, great fight. You also have Usman Nurmagomedov versus Paul Hughes. Great fight. It'd be awesome if they could get the Bellator library in there as well since they purchased Bellator, but I don't know if that'll be happening. But yeah, this has just been a little 30-minute stream. I appreciate everybody that has stopped by. DJ, Nels, anybody that stopped by and liked, not chat, I appreciate you. Blood and Beer, prelim preview. John Dong, showing up a little late, but shout out my boy. Glad to see you each and every week. You're a loyal one. You're a real one. You're a truth one.